Hello. Welcome to the Horror Stories channel. Now I will tell you about the 5 creepy police calls. Cops of Reddit, what has so far been the creepiest call you've ever had to respond to and what happened? 911 dispatcher reporting in. Received a call from an elderly lady who had trouble breathing. I had taken several calls from her and her husband in the past, so I recognized her voice. I dispatched an ambulance to her residence and held her on the line trying to keep her calm while the ambulance was responding. Ambulance advised that they 15-minute later, she lived in a very rural part of West Virginia. I'm talking to her asking about her husband and how he was doing and just making small talk with her. The ambulance calls in and advises they are on scene, and I let them know that she is in severe respiratory distress, and I still had her on the line. I let her know the ambulance is coming to the door to go answer the door, and she says okay and hangs up the phone. Pretty normal, yeah. Well, here's where it gets weird. The EMT and paramedic on scene call back about a minute later, and advises no one is answering the door. We have a sheriff unit who was in the area pulling on scene about that time. The sheriff unit confirmed the address, and advised he is breaching the door to make access to the PT. 5 minutes go by and the paramedic on scene radios in asking who the caller was. I advise it was the elderly female who lived at the residence. He tells me that he's going to call in, and needs to speak with the supervisor on shift. We get him over to the supervisor, and the supervisor confirms the information that I gave him, and asks what's going on. Apparently the elderly female had been dead for a while, and was already in full rigor mortis. They thought I was wrong on the caller, but the other dispatchers played it back and confirmed that it was the female who called. The ambulance transferred to hospital, and we got the same calls and disbelief from the doctors. So, I took a call from a ghost. I am interning with the sheriff's police department, so most of my time is spent on patrol. We got called out to do a wellness check which the deputy thought was going to be a piece of cake like she was out of town or something. We get there and are met by the neighbors who told us that the mail is pulling up in the mailbox, and that there are several untouched packages on the porch. Okay, so we go up the house and the front door is unsecured, so we crack open the door a couple of inches and the deputy calls inside, but the door won't move anymore. The house was one of those split houses where the stairs meet at the front door, and the upstairs and downstairs are offset, so we concluded that there might be stuff behind the door. It's about this time that the deputy tells me that she is a known hoarder, and that could be why the door was stuck. He also mentions that if we see flies on the inside of the windows, she is most likely inside and deceased. As we walk around the side of the house, we notice a lot of flies on the windows. The back door was locked, and as we looked we noticed bags on bags of garbage, diapers, and miscellaneous shit all over the place. We head back to the front and attempt to make entry. He pushes the door open, this time with more force, and from underneath I see a grease-like liquid spreading out from under the door. The deputy stops, closes the door and calmly tells me that the lady was indeed dead, and wedged behind the door. From the dates of the packages we concluded that she had been gone about 2 months. Once we did make entry into the house, I was allowed inside. After 2 months she didn't even look like a human corpse. Her skin and body had sagged and melted to the floor, and her face was all black and had been eaten to the bone by maggots. I'll never forget the smell when the coroners moved her and she popped. It was like a physical presence. Whatever those people get paid to deal with that shit, it's not enough. The thing that really got to me though, was wondering if she had fallen down the stairs and died there, or if she fell and was unable to move and waited for help that would never come. I was a parks officer for a downtown metropolitan out in the Pacific Northwest. I saw my fair share of weird stuff on my 1700-0100 shift. Naked bike ride after party at midnight with about 1,000 or so naked people chilling out, the occasional couple having sex. Homeless person masturbating or shooting up heroin, and the occasional dead body were all a normal part of the job. Anyways, this one night we were sent to investigate a tent set up relatively near the waterfront, which was generally a homeless person that was trying to stay dry for the night. So we get there around 23:30, and tell the lady inside that she has to go a few hundred yards away to an area that isn't patrolled. She fusses and bitches about having to move, then mentioned a man living in a cave at the bottom of a shallow ravine nearby that's been killing small animals and eating them. We ask her for more information, and she points to a general area about 50 yards away through some thick brush, the general area most people wouldn't wander past. My partner and I start to walk through the thick brush with just our flashlights, and eventually stumble upon the ravine. And sure enough, there is a small opening on the side, enough for a person to fit in. I scale down about 20 feet and peek inside the opening, and see what seems like a massive pile of magazines, torn pages, articles of clothing, a sugar cookie tin, a gorilla costume hand, some crude-looking tools including a makeshift bow, a few knives and other generally weird shit. Being curious, and that the cave was empty, I opened the sugar cookie tin and found a large amount of what seemed like raw animal meat. At this point I was thoroughly freaked the fuck out, and decided to unass the area, and inform the police of what I had found. We didn't carry weapons. We never found out what came of the guy who was staying there or what was going on there. But definitely freaky at around midnight in pitch black conditions. Ex-military police here. Responded to a call of a woman with blood between thighs and t-shirt screaming in the yard. I'm first to arrive. She was the wife of serviceman, raped brutally. Was notified en route that there were also 3 dependents in the house. Unknown ages, but under 18 years old. Get wife on the ground, backup arrives, ambulance are en route. I proceed to enter the house with sidearm drawn. Serviceman is unconscious, living room floor, full of vomit around his head. 2 children holding themselves on the couch, in absolute terror. I gather up the kids, and get them outside with the mother. The situation is surreal, and I'm completely over my head. I re-entered the house. The state of it was hellish. Like a bomb of cigarettes, booze, maggots, diapers, and rotting food had been detonated. I have to find 3rd dependent, stop, and check if serviceman was alive, had pulse. Make my way to the back room. There is a crib. No noise. I try to mentally prepare myself to see a dead baby. I approach the crib and see the baby asleep. I can see chest raising and lowering, partial relief. Dried poop encrusted the backs of its legs, butt, and back. The baby had not been bathed in some time. Virtually abandoned. Ambulance is now outside. I demand someone to get the infant. The base ombudsman woman arrives. She panics. I call my supervisor who was on leave. Told him to get to the scene as fast as possible. My aspirations of continuing a career in law enforcement after my enlistment ended right there. I was new on the force, and sent to a home invasion in progress late in the night. I noticed my training officer didn't seem to be too concerned and responded slowly as opposed to the normal emergency response for crimes in progress. Upon arrival he asked me if I had been to the home before. After I said no, he told me to go handle the call. As I walked towards the home, the garage opened. An elderly lady who was bent at a 90-degree angle at her waist hobbled out. Without looking at me, she said to hurry due to the fact that the 2 black male suspects were still in the home. She used much more colorful and racist language. I noted that she couldn't straighten her back, and realized she was a bit off mentally. I then walked into the home with her behind me. While my eyes adjusted to the interior, I heard a click. I turned to find the lady locking 2 padlocks on the interior of the door. I then noted, as we were within the kitchen, that every cabinet and pantry also had a secured padlock on their doors. I looked down the hallway and found that every interior door of the small home was shut and secured with padlocks. I followed the elderly woman down the hall to the second door on the left. She began to unlock the padlock to the door and shouted, "They are in here." To my surprise, within the room, there was an older white guy sitting at a table using a desktop computer. He looked at me, greeted me, identified himself as the woman's husband, and then went back to whatever he was doing. The woman then pointed at an empty chair and began to yell, "They are under the chair." Oh no. They just ran outside right there. The woman was pointing at a wall. After waiting for the woman to lock her husband back into the room, and then waiting for her to let me out of the kitchen door, I cursed my training officer and hightailed it out of there. That was my first exposure to mental illness, and it was creepy. My training officer said the woman had supposedly been raped by 2 black males years ago, which had caused her mental break and her animosity towards those of the race. Creepy, isn't it? If you like this story and if you are not afraid to hear even more scary stories, go to the channel and watch with pleasure. And also do not forget to subscribe, put likes and click on the bell to learn about the latest stories first.